Welcome to Biz Dev Live. My name is Cameron Toth, and I am very excited to be talking to you today. Passive income is one of those things that is the holy grail of entrepreneurship, right? When people talk about it, they talk about it in commercials, they talk about it all over the place. Do this and you can make money and bring it in, and you don't have to do anything. Now, we know if it's too good to be true, it's too good probably to be true. That being said, with a little bit of work, and maybe with a lot of work, you can create systems, processes, revenue pieces to your business and to your life, right, that do bring in income with relatively little ongoing effort on your part. They may take a lot of effort to set up, right? And so some of the examples of this, regular interest from a certificate of deposit. I mentioned this in the post, so you can go down to the details and you can see these lists. Dividends from stocks or other investments. What's the challenge here? Well, you have to have the money initially to invest, and you have to be comfortable with the risk in the stocks, right? Royalties from a creative endeavor like a book or a website. Well, you got to create that puppy, right? And it's got to be something that is useful, and then you got to market and promote it. Affiliate marketing, earning cash for running advertisements or posting monetized links on your website or social media account. You got to put the work in. Consistency, and then create your system and process, right? And then it all starts clicking. So it all takes work, but you can create these things and then take advantage of them. Make money online, activities like starting a blog, taking surveys or testing apps, money from a rental property, renting out your home short-term, selling items on marketplaces such as eBay or Amazon, right? The setup can be challenging with these things, but if you get it going, you get a system and process in place, you don't necessarily need to be there in the day-to-day. And we're going to talk about coherence and aligning your leadership today with Suzette West. We're going to talk about how she creates and how she's created passive income for herself. And so I'm excited to share Suzette with you. So stay with me. We'll be right back right after the Biz Dev Live theme. Let's get it.
Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Business development, not even selling it. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Biz Dev Live. This is business development, not even selling it.
All right, let's get into it with Suzette West. Suzette West. Suzette's real estate journey started in 1996. She discovered the beauty of investing in larger multifamily properties in 2018. Suzette realized the benefits of economies of scale and how it could offer far superior yields, making every dollar work harder and produce more growth in less time with less volatility than stocks. Suzette West loves apartment investing. She says it's an equal opportunity creator of wealth with the right team. Suzette West is a life coach, an artist, and an active motorcyclist. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. Check out the link below. Suzette, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Hey, Cameron. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm excited about this. So I want to get into a lot of different things, but I know when we were scheduling this show, you were talking about you're headed out, I think, for a couple weeks on the road on the motorcycle. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm actually riding from Washington State out to South Dakota to attend a Motormaids convention. It's a women's riding club that's been around since like the 1940s. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing. You're living a life that I could only imagine because I am not the motorcycle guy, but it looks pretty awesome. So thank you for sharing that. So tell me about how you're helping people with your business pieces, right? Because you do a couple of different things and wear a few different hats.
Yeah. So my journey in real estate actually started, like you said, in 1996, and along the way, I just really gravitated towards real estate investments because that is, real estate offers a lot of opportunities to create wealth and eventually get to a point where you're not trading time for dollars. And that's really huge because if we try to trade time for dollars, I mean, there's only so much time in a day. And we really want to save some time to, be with our families, be with our friends, and not try
And correct
to.
me if I'm wrong, you help people along that path, right? You help
Yeah,
people
yeah.
get into the real estate investing. You have your company, Wild Orchid Capital, that helps people get involved in real estate investing. Yes.
Yes, either passively or as co-sponsors. So if they're active in the business, I'm always looking for um, partners and people who just want to get in passively. I help them find those opportunities. Absolutely.
I love it. And for the folks that want the passive income or just to do that, they have to have a little bit of capital, right? And everything involves a little bit of risk. So we'll always say that if I ever
Yeah,
talk about stuff on this show, right? It is always
absolutely.
risk, right? So talk to me. I can't imagine 5-year-old little Suzette West thinking she was going to be a life coach, real estate investment person when she grew up. How did we get here? What was that journey? What did that look like?
So I started out my adult life at age 15 when I had my son, and it just kind of made things a little harder for me. So up until that point, I was just this regular kid, but as soon as I became a mother, I was like an instant adult. And so I worked a lot of odd jobs here and there. And in when I was 26, it was just a turning point for me. I started reading books like from Caroline Myss
Yeah.
and Stephen Covey, and just
And
started.
I just wanted to share real quick, because I know when we connected, we talked about, I had a child at 19, a few late years later than you did, but still very, very young, right? And
Mhm.
just want to mention, because in today's news, it's the day that this is going live, we got really an incredibly historic day in the country, and I'm a guy that's, for so many reasons, pro-choice guy, somebody that believes that it's a woman's right to choose, and people are going to fall on this on religious reasons, political, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a challenging day for women, because the majority of men made this decision. Let's be clear, right? And so I think it's an interesting thing, and I just want to push forward that it's a very challenging thing. I know that you can speak to it, you speak from it, but this is one of those things that changes somebody's life. I know it changed my life so much to have a child at a young age. So I'm very hopeful that the same folks and all of the rest of our politicians, all of those folks is involved in the actual lives of the people that need education and homes and food and resources to survive and thrive in this world. I hope they are as much involved in those decisions to help people out as they have been in making this law get overturned. So just putting that out there. A very historic day, and I appreciate you sharing your part of the story, because I identify with it very much. Go ahead, Suzette.
Yeah, so it's not easy being a teenage mom, and I just worked odd jobs for years. And back then it was like my very first job was washing dishes for like $3.40 an hour, part time, not even full time. So it was just a struggle for a really, really long time, and I had to I couldn't go to school. I had a kid and he was premature. So I just had some extra work on my hands, and it just made life a lot harder. And it took me a long time to get to a point where I was actually starting to decide, like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, where do I want to go? And I remember watching, they used to have a lot of late night infomercials with like real estate gurus and everything. And I was like, I'm really fascinated with real estate. And if I apply my learning skills, because I was just, excellent student. I had really good grades and everything, but just made poor choices in my life. And so anyway, so when I saw this on this late night infomercial about a real estate guru, I was like, I think if I applied myself, I could really create something and just follow the path and know that this path is going to take me to where I can have my best opportunities and for growth and learning and becoming, pulling out of the situation that I was in. And it took me 26 years to get to the point where I am now. And the reason it took so long is just because I, initially had a hard time getting my foot in the door, but I stayed with it. And I became my own broker in 2003, and I started my investment company in 2002. Destiny just when
And
you follow
let me dig a little bit here, just a little bit, because I know as you were getting involved in the real estate industry, you had the challenge of coming from, as many of us, right, backgrounds that are not, filled with pedigrees, right, not filled with college degrees and master's degrees, right? You were coming from odd end jobs, a resume that didn't look as impressive to people as maybe it did to other people. Sort of that sort of stain, if you will, of not coming from the right places, right? And so, how did you deal with that as you were kind of getting in the door? Because I know you faced some challenges with that.
It was one step at a time. It was one baby step at a time. I just did the next right thing. And wherever I found myself in new surroundings, I just leaned into it and just kept going one step at a time and always just did my best in everything that I did. And that really helped to align. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. But when it did work out, I would make allies and friends along the way that would eventually open doors for me, or we'd work together. It was just a longer process than, say, someone who, had all the right connections.
Yeah, I want to say this, very strongly to anybody that's watching this, right? The building bridges thing and not burning bridges, right? Because I definitely have those experiences. I don't know if we talked about this when we were talking one-on-one, but when I started up Toth Staffing, I got hired by a company that had previously fired me. So here it was, this guy, and if you can imagine me, I was working as a security guard for events. I'm not a very big guy. I'm not the guy that you would imagine working security, but I got fired from this job, and not for being a big guy, for being too tough on the job. I sat a kid down who was running through a party with a pole, and ended up being a big thing. Like, here I am trying to make sure that, honest to goodness, somebody doesn't get stabbed and die at this bat mitzvah, and I'm getting fired. And so the way that I handled that situation, I sort of took it on the chin, said thank you very much, moved on, and then years later that same company was hiring me back. And so that building bridges thing and not burning bridges, right? So I could have been super PO'd and told everybody off, and profanity to this, profanity to that, you guys suck. I mean, honestly, that's how I felt at the time, right? But I didn't do that, right? Said, okay, well, I accept that. All right, very good. I know there's other doors and other opportunities out there. And years later, I joined a professional organization called MPI, Meeting Professionals International. They saw me in a different light. I opened up a company, and there's been thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars of business that have come out of that business relationship. And so that keeping the lines of communication open, building those bridges and not knocking them down, that's a big deal. I just want to shout that out. I think that's great.
Yeah. Building relationships is a huge deal. That being said, not everyone is going to gravitate towards you. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to feel the need to do business. But you know what? We can't, that's okay too, because we're not going to be able to be all things to all people. So it's just knowing that what's really important is to anchor into one's self, be so grounded into who you are that who your people are. Who the ones are that have your back, and the ones that don't, that's okay. let that go, and not make it mean anything, because at the end of the day, it's none of our business what other people think of us. What's more important is that we anchor into our authenticity, and we give to the people who are on our side, who do get us, who do care. And they are the best allies, because they are your people. And it's the same in real estate. It's the same in anything in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me, as you were getting into real estate, you were getting a footing, what sort of solidified real estate as the place to go for you in terms of, building this passive income? When did it start to really click? I know there was the transition to uh, multi-family properties in 2018 that sort of ignited something for you. What, even earlier, like what made real estate stand out as the place to go to kind of stop doing all the other things that you were doing?
So real estate is an asset. It's a hard asset, meaning you can go there, you can visit it, and it provides housing. And, real estate is a business. Providing housing is a business. And if you know the fundamentals, you can make active income, you can make passive income, and the income is coming from the service of providing housing. So this just by itself really inspired me to just get under the hood, learn the fundamentals of how real estate works. How does money grow? Like, I had to learn the time value of money. There's a certain way that, just you're either making interest or you're paying it. And real estate allows you to earn from the spread between what the cost of debt is and the rental that you get, the rent that you get paid. And it's been around since the beginning of time. Like, people have always needed a place to live, and they will always need a place to live. So it's just, to me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that. I put that into the chat here. You're either paying interest or earning interest, right? And I think that's something that I'm still working on, the not paying interest part, right? I got those credit card bills like so many of us do. And so getting to that place where you're actually earning the interest, right? Savings accounts we talked about in the list of, ways that you can do passive account, CDs. And then you got your real estate where you can make money in a lot of different ways with real estate, right? And so when we talk about real estate, what are the ways that you are making money from real estate?
In 2000, so I said in 2018, I started up leveling to larger apartments that are 60 or more units. Before that, I was doing fix and flips. So I'd buy at a certain low price. I'd and put equity into it by fixing it up, and then once all the work was done, I'd sell for a profit. And then I did that for a while, and then when fix and flips in my area started getting harder to find, my partner and I moved on to developing vacant lots. And so we would find, these really nicely located vacant lots. We'd bring utilities to them, and then we put new houses on them and then sell those. And that we did that, we still occasionally do that.
And were you in Washington at that time, or was that another place?
Everything's in Washington.
Yep.
That we did. Yeah. Because, we were boots on the ground for ourselves. So everything we did to that point, and we even purchased 2 smaller apartment buildings along the years, and we remodeled those and held those for a little while. And the first one that we purchased and was just sold this year. So we bought that one in 2005, and then that sold earlier this year. So we held that one for a long time, and it actually, was pretty good. It was a really good experience.
Yeah, that was a good time to, sort of have it on the market and sell it. Congratulations to you. That is amazing. And I think that gets into something that we sort of mentioned just before we went on live today. We're going to talk a little bit about interest rates. And so there's a lot of stuff in the news. If you're following the news at all, interest rates are going up. But the idea that you have, that this time thing, right? You mentioned it, over time, right? The interest thing, right? If you're paying interest over time, that's working against you. If you're earning interest over time, and especially if you're, getting that great compound love, right? Still something that I have a challenge in talking about and getting more familiar with it each time that we talk about. But compound interest, being able to really make money over time with your growing assets, your assets that are growing, right? And so real estate is one of those assets that can really grow in value over time. And so it's very difficult to time the market, but there are ways to make sure that you're ready for those favorable things that may happen in the market for you. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing about that is really, the first investment is investment in yourself and getting educated about the way, time value of money, and how to read a profit and loss, and how to read people's underwritings. But one thing I want to say is it just depends on, see, real estate is, as long as you know where you are in the market cycle, because every market is, real estate is a cyclical thing. So it goes, prices go up, and then there's the peak, and then prices come down, and sometimes the cycles can be like 10 years, right? But as long as you know where you are in the market cycle, then you can underwrite accordingly, and underwrite for the market, and not get too aggressive in your underwriting so that you can meet the seller's price, because that's kind of a dangerous play right there. You always want to underwrite for the market and where you are. And I was always
So
trained.
explain that, because I know you've lost me. So if you've lost me, I imagine you might have lost somebody else. So explain underwriting in terms of, because I'm assuming you're talking about loans, right?
So when I say underwriting is just the process of evaluating how a property is performing. You're looking at the income, you're looking at the expenses, you're looking at the cost of capital, what the mortgage is going to be, and how much cash flow at the end of everything.
So the
How much
decision-making
cash
process around investing in a property.
flow.
Yeah.
It's how much cash flow is coming out of this property, and that determines how much you're willing to pay, ideally. But that's kind of been, in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of buying groups that are more interested in winning the deal, so they're engineering their numbers to fit the seller's price, when actually they really need to be looking at, what is the return that I want to make from this, and what does that mean in terms of how much I pay. And that's the whole purpose of underwriting, is to see, what am I willing to pay based on what my return expectations are. But the market as of late is really mostly about catering to sellers. So it's just been a lot of overheated markets. People are overpaying for properties right now. But in terms of interest rate, the higher the interest rate, it has a lowering effect on prices, because in order to achieve a certain interest rate, the higher the interest goes up, the price has to come down in order to meet that target interest rate. Okay. And if you are engineering the underwriting to try to, like, oh man, I got to get this deal, so I want to come to as close to what the seller's asking for, that's kind of asking for gain. I mean, that is asking for trouble. So if you're going to overpay for property, and let's say you get into a deal at like a 3.5% mortgage, and you bought in at a cap rate, which is a snapshot of the property's performance. So at that particular time, what is the property's performance in that time? And that's usually measured in cap rate, which is the net operating income, or the purchase price divided by net operating income. So that gives you a cap rate. And
Yeah, your expenses for the property over time. So what you're going to be paying for it, what the maintenance potential costs, whatever big challenges that might come up, roof, any other big costs that might hit you, right? So you're evaluating all that into the picture. And I think this is important, because it's the same as any business, right? You have to take in all of the expenses, annualized or otherwise, right? And so, I know for us on the with my staffing business, because you have a seasonal business, and so, I think any business that can't depend on, if you have a convenience store that's open 12 months of the year and does consistent business, it's easy to budget things out. But I think when you have an asset like a house, it's harder because you don't necessarily know when the big costs are coming, but they're coming, right? And so, it's easy to say, well, the roof is good right now. Let's not worry about that, but you got to worry about that, right? Because that's how you end up underwater, right? That's how you end up in a situation where you thought you were investing into something that was going to make you money, and then it quickly turns into a boondoggle where you're sinking money in and just trying to get out, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm heading towards. So when the ideally, so not ideally, you want the interest rate to be lower than the property's cap rate. Okay. Because the minute the cap rate is lower than the interest rate, now you are going to experience a thing called negative leverage. And that is a big no-no when it comes to an investment property, because you want the strength of the property to be able to carry the debt. And when there's negative leverage, the loan is stronger than the property, and the property is not able to support the debt. And that's when people start getting into trouble.
Absolutely. And so I was just trying to put it into a comment for this, but the cap rate should be lower.
Cap rate needs to be larger than the interest rate. So,
Gotcha.
If the market cap rate is at 5, you could probably do mortgage, 4%, right? But with interest,
and with this, you're talking about all property, or is there a specific type of property that you're
any
talking about?
investment property, the difference, okay, evaluating investment property is the same, because you just got to get together the income, the expenses, the debt, what your capital improvements are going to be. All those general categories are the same. What's different is how the property operates. So the way that you operate a multifamily property is going to be different than the way that you would operate a self-storage facility or a mobile home park or a single family house. They're all going to have their own unique ways of operating, and they all have their needs in terms of what kind of teams you'll need to pull together. But evaluating them is generally the same. You want to see your income, you want to see your expenses, you want to incorporate reserves for unforeseen things, and the cost of debt. And when you figure all that stuff out, and you look at it based on actuals, then you can kind of say, all right, well, based on this, I can afford to pay X amount of dollars for this investment property. And then the whole idea is that you cash flow from day of closing.
Right. And you're making money right from the get-go.
Right from day one.
And for you to have that going, I mean, because you're talking about, I think for the most part, these multifamily properties that already may have tenants in them, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, it just depends. Sometimes, you find a deal that's vacant, but you can really get it at a really good price because it's vacant, and you can just take it over and make the improvements and then get a tenant in there. And yeah, and there's other times when you're purchasing properties that already have tenants in them. Now, for those situations, so like in a situation where you've already got tenants in them, it's really important to look at all of the leases, because sometimes sellers will just put people in without really checking them out, just so that they can say that they're 90% occupied or 95% occupied, and maybe they were just they just packed got them in there just to say they were occupied, and really they weren't checked out. Maybe they weren't really, maybe they don't have good credit, maybe they have a bad eviction history, and like some sellers will do that. It's you have to be really careful. So doing lease audits is really important, where you sit through all the leases and see who's in good standing, who's behind, and really know what you're getting into before you close, because once that happens, it's a done deal.
Absolutely. I think it's really interesting when you talk about this stuff, and I don't have the familiarity with real estate, which is why it's exciting to talk to you, and hopefully folks will reach out to you and connect with you, because you help people through this. Because I think one of the big challenging pieces of, and obviously you have experience with doing some of the work yourself inside of these houses, is for somebody that may have been working a desk job or has no interest in doing demo and remodeling and construction. Real estate sounds great, but I don't want to go fix somebody's plumbing. I don't know how to do that. What do you say to folks that sort of have some of those concerns, that want to get involved in real estate, know that there's an opportunity there, but are completely intimidated by it?
Yeah, so real estate is an amazing asset that you can either participate actively or passively. So, some people are happy to go in and self-manage and do the work themselves. I actually I hire subcontractors to do my jobs out here. So I didn't actually have hands-on going in there with a hammer. I subcontracted, but there's some people that, hey, they've got the time, they've got the skills, they go in there, they do sweat equity on their own, and they self-manage. The thing about self-managing is that it's, you're basically buying yourself a job. And when you're already working a full-time job, that can get real old real fast. And so for those people who are, they've got busy lives, they're working full-time in a job in an unrelated industry, but they're really interested in getting into real estate, but they don't have the time or the inclination to want to get on the learning curve to really learn how to do this business in a way that builds wealth. There's the passive way, and that's just finding people who are experienced, who've got the teams in place, and who bring in passive investors to go in as a group to buy and acquire and do implement the business plan. And they let the experienced team do the active stuff, and then you just wait for your distribution. So that's real estate is like, you can get as involved as you want or as passive as you want, and it just really depends. It's a personal choice. It depends on what do you got in your life? Do you have a family? Do you have outside activities that require more of your time? How much time do you have to devote to real estate? And then that right there will let you know whether you can do active or passive.
And I think once you get into real estate, there's no way around it, right? Unless you can, and I can't imagine that this even exists, but somebody that was the lawyer, the bank, the this, the that, the other. There's so many pieces involved with real estate, right? From your maintenance of the property to the finance teams that are required just to get a sale across the finish line. You have to have a team, and I think you started talking about aligned leadership and what you were saying, right? So let's dive into that. What does that mean, aligned leadership? How do you create these teams around your investments that are going to work for you?
Okay, so the first thing is, when I talk about alignment, I'm really talking about an energetic state where, people are on the same page, they see the same vision, they have the same values. And let me just give you an example. So when I say values, like, you've got some syndicators who are really professional, really, they care about their passive investors. They keep them apprised of everything, because we can't foresee everything. So when little wrinkles pop up during a deal, like, a great syndicator will be open and transparent and communicate, hey, here's what we got going this month, but here's what we're doing to mitigate this, address this, fix this. We're working on it. We'll keep you guys posted on what's going on, versus a team that goes dark when things go bad. They stop communicating. Things are not transparent. Things are opaque. You don't know what's going on from one minute to the next. They're not keeping the community apprised of developments or how things are going. You know, real estate is, I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars, right? It's so important to have that alignment that, okay, with my community of investors, I aspire to transparency. I aspire to constant updates. Here we are. Here are things going. Things are going really well. Or we kind of ran into a wrinkle that we didn't foresee. So here's how we are addressing it. And that means operating with operating partner way, so that when I know and I can feel confident that they will be open with the entire team, so that I can then communicate what's happening with my community. But when you have a misalignment, that's when tensions rise, frustration rises, there's confusion. And here's the truth. You can take an excellent deal, okay, and put a crappy team behind it, and it's gonna do bad. Whereas you could take a mediocre deal and give it to an excellent team, and they will make good from it. So the team is really important.
I can't agree more. I think about this every day as I'm sort of building my team within my business. And I got a couple of them going on, right? So there's Toth Event Staffing, which is my main line of income. And then you got BizDev Live. And so this trying to find that aligned leadership, and you're getting vendors, right? And I think a lot of times for folks that are thinking about business, you're thinking about team, you think about the people that you're directly paying maybe under you, right? But your vendors, right? The people that you're working with in the business community, and so important inside the real estate business. You have a choice in who you do business with. You have a choice. You have lots of different options, especially when it comes to real estate, but so many different businesses, right? You have choices on who you are going to do business with. You don't have to do the person down the street. You don't have to do the person that's on your corner. You don't have to do the first person that sort of emails you or comes in your door, right? There's lots of different places to go. And I think that's really, really important to sort of understand, especially if you've gotten into one relationship. Maybe you got a relationship into your bank and they're not taking care of you. I know during the pandemic, it was really interesting that I'd had relationships with a couple of banks for years. In one case, one of them over a decade, they did not come to help me out, did not open a door for me, did not help me when it came to PPP. Meanwhile, a business that I had no existing relationship with jumped in to help me. Well, I made a change. I have a relationship over here. You're not helping me at all. And I need it. I'm in my moment. I made a change, right? You got to go with the folks that are willing to help you and willing to work with you and are aligned with what your common interest is. I threw it in the comments that you were using the word syndicator. And I think, the idea of a syndicate, right? An association of people or firms formed to promote a common interest or carry out a business enterprise. You got to be in it for that common purpose, that common goal, and all show up, right? Yolanda's saying here, communication and transparency is the key, right? If you got something going on and you can't help me out right now, communicate. Don't just not answer me. And I know I've been guilty of this as well as a partner and as, within a business enterprise. I got clients asking me about staff, for months ahead. I'm like, I'm just worrying about tomorrow. Communicate. Let people know what the situation is. Say, I'll get back to you on this when I have a moment, instead of just not replying at all. And then do it, right? When you do have the moment, follow up and make sure that people are good. You want to say provide good customer service, right? So I don't know if you want to talk any more about aligned leadership, Suzette. We can dive into coherence if you're good.
Well, actually, coherence relates to aligned
Mm-hmm.
leadership, right? So when we're talking about aligned, we're talking about energetics, undercurrents that you feel, because as human beings, we're constantly radiating energetics, our moods. Like you could stand next to someone, you don't know them, but you can pick up that they're having a bad day without even them saying anything, without even knowing them. It's that frequency that you're picking up from them. So in any team there are undercurrents, okay? And so what I like to explain is, as individuals we have our own inner batteries, okay? So we can recharge them or we can deplete them based on our um, level of coherence, which is where the mind and the heart are working harmoniously together. It's what happens when we are emotionally self-regulated. However, when we are emotionally dysregulated, that means we're really stuck in the head. We're not in our hearts, we're in our heads, we're in our egos, we're in our old stories, and we're assigning meaning to things and then reacting to that, whether it's true or not. And that affects the undercurrents. And those undercurrents can be felt on teams, in relationships, in relationship with ourselves, in relationship with others. So coherence is a really important thing. It's like it starts at the individual level. And then as that inner harmony is there, you can then relate coherently with others outside of yourself. When someone triggers you, you're able to get that, you're able to recognize it, breathe through it, and then just allow that coherence to open up space for, no judgment. Just let's hear out what the person has to say. Let's just let's offer compassionate latitude and see if there's a compromise, see if we can come to a mutual understanding. It's like when we jump to adversarialism or divisiveness, that's because we're assigning meaning to what somebody said or did. But the idea of focusing on coherence, focusing on that heart mind connection, breathing through those triggers, because we all have triggers, right? We all have triggers, and they come from somewhere in the past that we experienced something pretty painful, and that memory gets stuck in our cellular body, okay? And we hold it in our memory so that in the future when somebody triggers it, we go off. And that's what happens when you don't have coherence, when you're not, when you don't have that skill of intentional emotional self-regulation. It is so, so critically important, you know? And it only takes one person to set the coherence of an entire room. That's how powerful that is.
I appreciate that a lot. I mean, I talk about this a lot in terms of being a presence on events as captain, going in and you're managing staff, you're liaisoning between many people, and you could, put this kind of role into all the different leadership roles that we have within our businesses, within our lives. You come at home at night. It was a great moving up ceremony speech by one of our local principals, and he was just talking about it was a great father son moment. The wife is serving him some burnt pie, and the husband eats the pie, and she says, "How's the pie?" He says, "It's good. I love everything you make." And the son comes to him later and says, I, did you really like that pie? Were you lying to your mother? And he said, "Listen, mom had a really hard day today. Didn't hurt me none, that pie, but a sharp word would have." Right. And so we don't take it on ourselves within our personal lives and our business lives to understand that, we may be frustrated in the moment. We may have a challenging moment, but, can you delay your gratification of, speaking out about that or complaining about that? And can you look into the moment and see what the best thing is for yourself and for everyone around you to do in that moment. And that's a big deal. And if you can carry that energy, right, create that energy that you want in the world, that's a big deal, because so much of what we put out is what we get back. And so if we want to get back this good stuff, right, we got to put out that good stuff. And I think that's an incredibly important message. And what better way to sort of talk about and understand coherence with just being coherent and on the same page with what you actually want in the world. Are you putting out what you want to get back, right? Such a it's a fundamental religious belief. I mean, it goes so many places, but it's one of those things, right? If we practice that, if we truly practice that, that goes a long way. And if we ask for that from the people that are working with us, which I think is a big deal, right? I think sometimes, in a world of microaggressions and so many different kinds of pieces inside of the workplace environment, if we speak to it, make sure everybody's on the same page with understanding that that is what we're looking for, that is the culture that we want to create, that is what's acceptable, and anything less, it's not so much, right? It's not acceptable. You're not allowed to come into this environment and poison the garden.
Right. And that and that reminds me of a very important point regarding aligned leadership. So it really falls on to leaders to anchor and set the container for the team, which means that the leader has to be the first one to do that inner work, so that they then are skilled at using their energy to create a safe container for their team to come in and have support them as they become coherent, because it's a muscle that has to be developed. It doesn't just happen accidentally. It doesn't happen by fate. It takes intentional working out that muscle, just like when you have to go to the gym. Like, you're not going to get toned and muscle bound and everything by just looking at the gym. You have to get in there. You have to set the intention of working out X amount of times every week. You have to be intentional about building that muscle. And coherence is the same way. When leaders set the coherence for the rest of the team, they are in essence starting to transform the culture. Okay, because culture is just the collective attitudes and energy and undercurrents of everyone that is on the team. We can drain ourselves. We can drain our own energy batteries, inner batteries, by negative thoughts, by dwelling on negative, by low energy emotions, negative emotions. Conversely, you can recharge your inner battery by doing something that brings you joy, by having fun. On a collective level, the whole group, those people create a group inner battery. And when you've got people that are not aligned, they're negative, they're resistant, they're like scoffing or scorning this person or that person and just making it a miserable experience to be in that group. Those are the drainers, right? Those are the energy leaks in the collective battery. So, sometimes hard choices have to be made, but you have to think about the effect that that person is having on the collective inner battery. And there is also, just as you have to intentionally work on your own inner battery, you also have to intentionally nurture and cultivate that collective inner battery. Sense what the undercurrents are. Go to those leaks and try to either help them find coherence, find a way to bring them into coherence with the larger collective group, so that because that harmony can be felt by all, and it makes it really hard to get things done when the undercurrents are out of balance.
Can't agree more. And I think that's an incredibly important point. The leader has to be the first one to do that inner work. You can't, it's great when you have positive, amazing team members. And I see it time and time again, whether it's in the classroom environment, whether it's in the business environment, you'll see organizations that take time out to chastise those folks that don't, follow the rules or aren't on the same program. And they do that on everybody else's time. And when you talk about leadership, that's leadership. It's somebody, from the top down, right, deciding how they're going to do it. And I'm going to call that out as a negative leadership, right? When you take everybody else's time to talk about the one person that's getting it wrong, or the few people that's getting it wrong, instead of taking everybody's time to tell everybody, hey, these are the folks that are getting it right. Let me lift these people up as shining star examples. I just want to take a moment, everybody's time, to congratulate and appreciate, right? And then take that person aside, take the folks that on their time and your own time apart, and don't waste everybody else's time with that garbage, right? And I think that's just one example of, the leadership piece where, we have to understand, what we do and how we say it really matters. And for those that are experiencing this inside your organizations, I'm sorry, right? I know it's a challenge. I'm thinking about right now, just in terms of examples, my children in school, and then they have leaders inside the school that will take everybody's time to talk about the wrong thing. And it's a waste, right? Because you got people that are doing the right thing. Let's lift them up. Let's take their time and maximize it, doing the awesome things that they're doing. Let's not waste it on the garbage of the lowest common denominator, the weakest link. You're just creating a situation where you're almost incentivizing somebody to act wrong, because now they get attention, right? Now they're getting lifted up in a way that just is not the kind of example that you want to send forward. So let's kind of go back here. Aligned leadership, coherence, creating passive income in your life, creating a better you. Suzette, talk to us about how people can get in touch with you. You're an amazing person to kind of make a part of the group committee here and these decisions. I know you have opportunity for folks if they want to get involved with real estate. How can people reach out to you?
So the best place is to check out our website at wildorchidcapital.com. We are releasing blogs weekly, and we have a monthly newsletter. So you can just go to that website and just check us out and keep in touch, say hello. And we always try to really know the people that join our community, that sign up. We really try to make an effort to get to know everyone, because that's just super important to us.
Beautiful. I put that in the screen and into the comments. I'm looking forward to people getting in touch with you. You can find Suzette's information in the comments. If you're on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, you can find that link to her LinkedIn, connect with her on LinkedIn. I did, and I'm so happy that I did. Thank you for being on the show with me today. Suzette, I'll leave you with the final words, and I'll play us off with the BizDev Live theme.
So I guess the final words is just, find your in your heart, everything you ever want in your life, all the answers you ever need is in your heart. And if you just tap into it and nurture that connection, you will have all the answers you ever need for the next baby step forward that will lead towards your most fulfilled life.
Love it.
BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, business development, not even selling it. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. BizDev Live. BizDev Live.